Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Couch Warrior podcast. I'm your host, Mike, as always, and today we're going to be breaking down LFA 150. Now, the odds are not out yet for this card. This card won't be until next week on the Friday before the UFC fights, so we still have some time. The odds are going to come out, hopefully, I'm expecting this weekend or sometime soon. And yeah, there's a few spots I like here. Hopefully, we won't lose too many of these fights. LFA does tend to change a lot of stuff around as the fights come closer. People fall through. I guess it's harder during the regional scene to book fighters. I know that Cody Saftik has spoken about it. So hopefully, we won't lose too many other fights for this card, but let's see what happens. So without further ado, let's hop right into the card. And for this first fight, we've got Jackson McVey versus Deven Paulsen. Now, McVey, he's making his pro debut. He hasn't fought as a pro just yet. He's 23 years old, 6'4", training out of St. Charles MMA. Deven Paulsen on the other side, he's 5'5" 23 years old, so they're the same age. 5'11", so he's given up 5 inches in height. And I don't believe that I got a reach for Paulsen. I did not. Now, the majority of Paulsen's fights were in Alaska FC. If you know anything about that regional scene, you know they're not very good over there. So Deven Paulsen, even on that scene, he was struggling with takedowns. His takedown defense is absolute crap. He's been submitted 4 times. McVey's got 5 submissions as an amateur, been submitted once as an amateur himself. Haven't seen much tape on McVey's striking, but the striking of Paulsen is absolute crap. He's super hittable, and because his takedown defense sucks, I really think that McVey probably just runs through him. So the pick is McVey. McVey by sub. Is it going to be playable? Probably not. They're probably going to drop McVey at like minus 300, and then the public will probably bet him down to like minus 500, I imagine. So the pick is McVey, but I highly doubt that we're going to be able to play him, and we're going to move right along to the next fight. All right, so this one's actually really dope. We've got Gary Konkol versus Isaac Thomson. Gary is 5'2". He's 28 years old, 5'8", training out of Nova Gym. Thomson on the other side, he's 2'1". I don't have a height for him. One sec. I think I have it in my notes. Yes, I actually do have his height. So he's 3 inches taller. He's 8 years younger, and he's got a 2.5-inch reach advantage this Thomson. Now, Thomson was a highly rated prospect until his last fight, and then he was a minus 250 favorite, and he got out-grappled big time, lost that fight in the second round, and I think that's part of the reason why the odds are not the odds, we don't have them, but why the predictions on Tapology are the way they are. Now, both these guys are very similar. Both of them are primarily strikers. That's what they do best. Both guys have pretty bad takedown defense, and both guys do have an ability to wrestle, but it's not very good. Neither guy is a high-level wrestler. Neither guy is racking up a lot of top control. You see Konkol, he's got 4 sub wins, but 3 of those were from bottom with an arm bar. So it's not like he's on top often, and it's not like Isaac is on top often. And now my thing is, who showed an ability to scramble better? And for me, that's Isaac Thomson. So in terms of the striking, I like Thomson. I think both of them are probably equal in the striking department, but I think that Konkol gets hit a lot more than Thomson does. Thomson is also very hittable, but I just think that Gary Konkol is going to be the more hittable guy here. I think Isaac Thomson is going to land the better shots. And if we do hit the ground in some form or some way, I do think that it's going to be Thomson who's going to be succeeding in the scrambles. Big thing, he's literally, I think he's 20 years old now. He was 19 in his last fight. Guy is super duper young, and this is no Raul Rosas Jr. He's not like an elite wrestler. He doesn't have something that he's incredible at, but he's a good striker, and he's going to be improving every fight, and I do think he's going to come in here. I think he's going to outstrike Gary Konkol, and I think he's going to pick up the W, probably by decision, but a KO wouldn't be shocking to me. So I do like Thomson there. He's the underdog on Tapology, whether he'll be the underdog on odds, that's going to be another story. So for this next fight here, we've got Santos Verdinez versus Darius Miller. Verdinez, he's 1-0, undefeated as a pro. 28 years old. He's 5'6", training out of Warriors Cove. On the other side, you've got Darius Miller. Now, Darius is making his pro debut here. He's 5'8", so he's 2 inches taller. And as an amateur, Miller went 4-2-0. Verdinez went 5-1-0. And look, for me, Verdinez is no world beater. His striking is good, decent, solid combinations, but nothing too crazy. His only pro win is by knockout. He does seem a bit hittable. He's never been knocked out, not as a pro, not as an amateur, but he does seem a bit hittable. His offensive grappling isn't really his thing, but it is something that he does have, and it's something that he has used. His own takedown defense isn't great, but I don't think that's going to matter here. He's got 3 submission wins as an amateur, 1 submission loss as an amateur. On the Miller side, the striking is terrible. He's never knocked anyone out as an amateur. His chin just holds it up high in the air. Terrible striking defense. Been knocked out 1 time as an amateur. His offensive grappling, he's got a decent trip, but it's just he's not very good. His takedown defense is horrible. He's got 3 submission wins as an amateur, 0 submission losses. But at the end of the day, I think that Verdinez is just a significantly better fighter here. So I do think that Verdinez is going to pull the W. Whether it'll be playable, I don't know. It's hard for me to tell. I would assume no, because anybody who tapes Miller will understand very quickly that he should not be a favorite. But let's see what happens. The pick is Verdinez. Verdinez by decision or late finish. And we're going to move right along with this card. All right, so for this next bout, we've got Mitchell McKee versus Ira Lukowsky. McKee is 3-0, undefeated as a pro, 25 years old, 5'7", 66-inch reach, training out of Sanford MMA, Killcliff FC. Ira Lukowsky, 3-1-0, 36 years old, so he's 11 years older here, 5'8", so he's going to be 1 inch taller, and I do not have his reach on hand. I believe I did get it, though. Yes, he's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage over McKee. Now, most important thing to note, in my opinion, is the wrestling of McKee. We're talking about a guy that in his weight class has been one of the best. He wrestled for University of Minnesota, was a 2-time All-American, qualified for the NCAAs 4 times, and he's just a very, very good wrestler. And it doesn't always translate to MMA, but so far with McKee, it has. He doesn't really strike much. We don't know what his striking really looks like. He hasn't been extended there, so it's likely that Lukowsky may have the better striking. Lukowski's not a bad striker. He does overswing quite a bit, which is going to allow McKee to duck under and shoot. But it's decent. And when he's throwing 1-2s, that's when I like his work the best for Lukowsky. Now, the offensive grappling of Lukowsky, he's gotten takedowns before, but the top control is crap, and there's just no way he's taking down McKee. His own takedown defense is all right, but he got taken down in his last fight and only 1 minute in. His opponent quickly took his back and eventually found the finish. Lukowski's a brawler. I just think that Mitchell McKee is not going to allow this to remain on the feet, that he's going to very quickly take down Ira Lukowsky, and I do think he's going to find a finish on the ground. So the pick is going to be Mitchell McKee. I highly doubt that he's going to be playable for us. I'd be shocked, but that's definitely the pick, and we're going to move right along. All right. For this next one, we've got Quang Lee versus Henry Huff. Quang Lee is 4-0. He's undefeated as a pro, 31 years old, 5'6" with a 70-inch reach. And I actually do have his gym. He's out of the Academy MN. On the other side, which I imagine stands for Minnesota, which is where he's from. Henry Huff on the other side, he's 4-3-0, 31 years old. He's 5'7", so he's 1 inch taller. let me check if I have his reach. I do not have Huff's reach, but I do have him training out of Team Cologne MMA. Look, this one, I think Lee is probably just going to murk Huff. Huff is all right, but he's very clearly a regional journeyman. His jab is all right. Decent flurries when he's closing the distance, but he leads with his head, and he's going to be open for counters. His wrestling isn't bad, but I don't think he's going to be able to take Lee down. Lee has shown very, very solid takedown defense, and when he is taken down, he's shown a very good ability to stand back up. So I don't think Huff will find success there. Now, in terms of it going the other way, Lee could wrestle. Huff, his takedown defense is not very good. So I do think that Lee has this path open to him to also out-wrestle Huff. On top of that, I think Lee's the better striker. I think it's very clear. Nice counters, slick step and elbow, nice hooks, good kicks. He's just a solid striker, and I really like his work on the feet. Again, it'll probably be unplayable, but I just think that Lee is going to be better everywhere by a margin, and especially the striking. Huff literally just lost a decision to a 3-4-0 guy. Like, that should tell you probably everything you need. So I do think that Lee is going to win this fight, probably by knockout, but not knockout, probably by submission, I guess, but going to stay off the method. We'll see if we can play Lee, and we're going to move right along. Real quick, my guy, 6Hound, thank you for tuning in, brother, saying he's stopping in to say hi. Not sure betting the event, but might check it out with the UFC missing this week. Yeah, this is next week, this card, but hopefully there's going to be some dope spots. Still waiting on the lines for this card. I did put out a video for LFA 149 2 days ago. LFA 149 is this weekend, so if you haven't caught that yet, run that back. Gave out some plays, did make some plays on, and I posted them on my Twitter, as always, at Couch Warrior Pod. So, yeah, but we're going to move on. The pick there is Quang Lee, and we're going to move right along. This next one is actually a really interesting fight. We've got Wes Schultz versus Dylan Budka. Schultz, he's 3-0, undefeated as a pro, 26 years old, 6'2", don't have his reach, training out of Pura Vida BJJ. On the other side, you've got Dylan Budka, 4-1-0, 22 years old. He's got a 4 year, he's 4 years younger, 6 feet tall. He's got a 2-inch reach disadvantage, and he himself has a 75-inch reach. Now, both of these guys are solid wrestlers. Schultz, he was an All-American wrestler at the University of La Crosse. Meanwhile, Budka, he wrestled for Notre Dame, so he was wrestling at a higher level, as far as I understand. You know, Schultz has looked good in his 3 fights, but like, I want to go over their competition because I think it's very relevant here. So I'm going to pull it up. Wes Schultz in his 3 fights, pro fights. John Knutson, who was 11-6-0 at the time. He has not fought since, but that was a recent fight. Hamza Salim, who was 5-4-0 at the time. Hamza is now 6-6-0. Victor Jones, who was 5-14-0 at the time. Victor is now 5-16-0. So the competition for Wes Schultz has been terrible. As for Budka, you look at him. Liddell Pogue, who's actually a pretty good fighter, beat him in his last fight. T. Cummins beat him before that. Also a pretty good win. He was the big underdog there. Ended up closing close, though. He closed at plus 105. And before then, you know, he was also fighting scrubs. But overall, I think that Budka has fought the better competition. Now, in terms of their striking, which I think is the most important thing here, because they're both good wrestlers, I give that edge to Budka. I don't love the striking of either guy. Schultz, he throws combos, but like I just don't like what he's doing. He looks very uncomfortable on the feet. And I don't like how he leans his head in when he shoots. I think he's going to be open for counters. Budka on the other side, also not much in the striking. Combos are all right. Also hittable. Also sticks his head out when he goes to wrestle. The thing for me was that Budka, for the most part, does not get taken down. Whereas Schultz, fighting Hamza Salim, he got taken down a few times. He reversed it and got up, yes, but he did get taken down. His ground transitions are very slick for Schultz, but I think that Budka can handle it on the ground, And on the feet, I give him the slight edge. Now, fight IQ, I give to Schultz because Budka at 22 years old, he has shown some pretty bad fight IQ. He does some silly things like throwing a stupid flying knee in the poke fight in round 1 and getting stuck underneath of him. I just do think that Budka is going to win this fight. I think it'll probably be by KO late, but should be a really close fight. I would not bet either fighter at chalk. If Budka is at some kind of dog odds, I'll probably be playing him. But overall, it's going to be a really close fight, and it's going to come down to who has the better wrestling and who's got the better striking. So because I think both are very even, it's hard for me to make a decision. But I do think that Budka has the better cardio, whereas Schultz, he seems to get exhausted very quickly. So the pick is Budka. Budka by either decision or late finish. And whether I play him, it'll be completely dependent on the odds. And we're going to move right along to the next fight. This is another fight that kind of had me like very, very torn. We've got Scott Writz versus Jalin Fuller. Writz is 6'2". He's 30 years old, 6 feet tall, training out of Rising Sun MMA. On the other side, you've got Fuller. He's 6'2" as well. 30 years old as well, 6'2". He's got a 2-inch height advantage. He's training out of Duke City MMA as far as I know. And Fuller is going to have an 8-inch reach advantage. Now, for me, this all came down to Fuller's takedown defense. Because on the feet, I think both of these guys are good strikers. I think that Fuller has great counters, great kicks, good combinations, really nice 1-2. He's just looking for the counter too much, and he's not leading often. In terms of the striking defense, he does move away pretty well. It's the takedown defense that's a problem. He's getting taken down in every single fight. Not just the fights against good grapplers like Bruno Assis or what's his name? Amish, something like that. Both of those fights, good wrestlers, he was getting taken down a lot. But even in his other fights, he gets taken down quite a bit. Normally, he can get up, but it's a big, big problem because he's a striker that just can't remain on the feet. Writz, on the other side, really slick counter striking, solid combos, very fast hands. He does move away from shots pretty well, but in the Fruth fight, his last one, he was getting caught quite a bit, and he does have one knockout loss. He is fighting a guy who's going to be really, really quite bigger than him, 2 inches taller, 8-inch reach advantage, and Fuller uses it well. He does a lot of lateral movement, and I do think he's going to be landing on Writz. What it comes down to for me is that Writz has shown some wrestling, and he has shown some ability to be good at it. If anyone here is going to be able to decide to take it to the ground, I think it's going to be Scott Writz. Who's winning on the feet? If we're at range, I think it's going to be Jalin Fuller. If Scott Writz is able to close the distance and get himself inside the pocket, I think it's going to be him. Who's got a grappling edge? I don't think it's really either guy, but I give it slightly to Scott Writz just because Jalin Fuller doesn't really wrestle and his own takedown defense is abysmal. So because of those reasons, I got to side with Scott Writz. I don't want to play him because my gut the whole time was saying Jalin Fuller. I can't play Fuller knowing how he's getting taken down. And I don't really want to play Writz because I do think that if Fuller doesn't get taken down, this is his fight. So I'm going to stay off of this one more than likely. If the odds are just off, maybe I'll make a play. But overall, I don't expect to have any money on this fight. And we're going to move on to the next one. All right, so getting to the good ones. All right, for this one, we've got Miguel Sanson versus Mark Climaco. Sanson is 4-0, undefeated as a pro, 23 years old. He's 5'7". And in terms of his camp, I do believe he trains in his own camp under his own family. Mark Climaco, he's 7-1-0, 25 years old. He's 2 years older, 5'4". He's 3 inches shorter. He's got a 66-inch reach, and he's training out of AKA. So this fight is very interesting because, guys, these two guys are just very, very similar and very, very close in terms of skill sets. I think that both of these guys are prospects. I think both of them are going to make it into the UFC. I just think that at this moment, the person with a bigger advantage is Mark Climaco. Now, starting with the competition, right? You look at Mark Climaco. His last fight, he beat Cody Davis, who was 5-0 at the time. Cody Davis is very good. He lost to Yuma Horiyuchi in round number 1. Not a great look. Rodney Kioloi beat him. Good guy. The rest, not so much. There's a guy, Igor Sekera, 6-0 at the time. 9-1 at now, so maybe the guy's pretty good too, but I did not watch that fight in particular. So I just think he's fought some tough guys. And then on the other side for Sanson, you got Tyus White, who is 5-1-0 and is actually pretty good. So I give him credit there. Gonzalo Ponce, 4-4-0 at the time. Now 4-5-0. Hasn't fought since. Sean Stebbins, which was a split decision, is now 3-2-0. At the time, he was 2-1-0. Brandon Pagoa, who's actually pretty good. He beat him. Pagoa was 1-0 at the time. He's now 3-1. That's a pretty good win. So both guys have had decent competition on the LFA scene. I just give the slight edge there to Climaco. Now, it gets really interesting because their skill sets are so similar. On the feet, Sanson's got a really nice jab, a really nice 1-2, and great combinations. Climaco, also great striking, nice kicks, solid 1-2, nice leg kicks, good jab, good combinations, good work in the clinch. And I just think his offensive wrestling is really, really good. He's got really good top control once he's got you down. He's got a great back take. His own takedown defense looks very, very solid. He's got one submission win of his own, never been submitted. Sanson on the other side, though, his grappling offensively is pretty good. Not a lot of tape that we can watch, so we're working off of limited information because of the way LFA does their prelims. But from what we've seen, his own takedown defense is very solid. It held up in the Tyus White fight. White did get him down in round number 2, but not for long. He can get a little flat-footed as the fight goes on. And I just think overall, Climaco will probably find a little bit more success on the feet. He might struggle at range because Sanson is bigger, but I don't think it'll be that hard for him to close the pocket. And in terms of who can lean back on their wrestling, I think that it's more likely that it'll be Climaco who can do that. I think that this fight is super close, and if we get close odds, I'll be on Climaco. If Sanson is a huge dog, I might consider it. I don't think he will, but he has the skill set to win this fight. If he can keep it on the feet, he could win striking exchanges. I just think that Climaco can also win striking exchanges, but he can bring the fight to the ground, and he can find control time and other weapons there. So my pick is Mark Climaco. Whether I bet him or not will completely depend on the odds, but we're going to move right along. For this fight, we're not going to waste much time because it couldn't be a clearer setup fight. Here we've got Thomas Petersen versus Richard Foster. Petersen is 6-1-0, 27 years old. He's 6'1" with a 72-inch reach, and he trains out of Spartan MMA. Foster on the other side, he's 6-4-0, so he's definitely got less good of a record, and the competition's not as great. 38 years old. He's 11 years older. He is 6'6", so he's going to be 5 inches taller here, training out of Yakima MMA. There is zero tape available on Foster. Zero. So can we make any assumptions here? No, we just don't know what we're dealing with from Foster. We know that he's got one knockout win. We know that he's been knocked out twice. We know that he's got 3 submission wins, and we know that he's got 1 sub loss. We also know that he's only fought 1 time since 2018. Petersen on the other side, 2-time state champ, good wrestling. His striking I don't love, but it's good. 6 KO wins, 1 KO loss. No submission wins, no submission losses. He is 11 years younger. I just think that this is pretty clear. It's a setup fight for Petersen to come back. He hasn't had the best performances lately. He'll probably smoke Foster, but you cannot possibly bet a fight where there is zero tape on one of the guys. If somehow you can find tape on Foster, all the power to you. swing that shit my way. But overall, you got to think Petersen will crush, but there's nothing you can do with this fight. And we're going to move on to the main event. So, for the main event of the evening, we've got Farias versus John Sweeney. Farias is 12-3-0, 33 years old. He's 5'6" with a 69-inch reach, and I've got him training out of Atos Jiu-Jitsu. Sweeney on the other side, he is 11-3-0, 27 years old, so he's going to be 6 years younger here. 5'7", so he's 1 inch taller. 71-inch reach, so he's got a 2-inch reach advantage. And he's training out of Upstate Karate, which I believe is Stephen Thompson's camp. So he does have a karate style, Sweeney. He's shown that. His striking at range is pretty solid. He's just not throwing enough output for me. Nice kicks, good in the pocket, good jab. Just not seeing enough combinations. 5 knockout wins, so the striking is working. Striking defense, he moves out of the way pretty well. He has been knocked out twice. I don't love his striking defense, and I think it will leave him open, but it probably won't matter much here. In terms of his defensive grappling, which I think is going to be vital here, he fought Cole Smith not too long ago. Cole Smith is a UFC veteran, not an extremely successful one, but one that does grapple, and one that does grapple well and relentlessly. Cole Smith was able to get him down. Cole Smith was able to rack up some top control in the first 2 rounds. Sweeney ultimately was able to win that fight, but it was difficult for him. Now, Farias is a high-level BJJ practitioner, 7 submission wins. He's incredibly slick on the ground. His own takedown defense against Tanaka wasn't great, but Tanaka is a UFC vet as well, and a better one than Cole Smith. And at the same time, Farias was still able to use his jiu-jitsu to find a sweep. His own wrestling is very solid, great double leg, strong top control. At range, in the striking, it's where he's kind of not great. His striking is serviceable at best. His own striking defense is not very good. I just don't think that he's going to keep this on the feet for long. But when it is on the feet, I do think he has enough to be able to hang. Now, I do think he'll get Sweeney down. I do think that he'll probably be able to submit Sweeney. I think it'll happen probably fairly quickly in the first or second round. Maybe Farias grinding out a decision isn't out of the question. But overall, I think he should win this fight. And I think he'll probably submit Sweeney. Can he get knocked out? Sure. Do I think he's going to get knocked out? I do not. So the pick is Farias. Farias by sub. Whether I play him will completely come down to the odds. And that's it. That's LFA 150, guys. Thank you all for anyone who's still watching, to anyone who has tuned in, or anyone who is tuning in later. I appreciate you guys big time. You're the reason I do this. Now, we're done with content for this week. Finally done. We got 3 shows in a row. Yesterday, I did an early UFC breakdown. Day before that, I did LFA 149. Now we're done. On next week, Thursday, I'll be going live twice. One time on YouTube at 9 p.m. Eastern time with my guy Pat from Addicted to Combat. We're going to break down the UFC card from the bottom up, and we're going to do so together. I love talking to Pat. The guy is very, very smart and very, very good. So together, hopefully we can help you guys find some dope spots. And then that same day, earlier in the day at 7 p.m. Eastern, I'll be doing my first ever Twitter space, which I'll be co-hosting with my guy, MMA Propaholic, super dope dude who's very good at props. So make sure to tune into that. Thank you guys again. Good luck with any bets you make this weekend. And again, make sure you're following me at Couch Warrior Pod on Twitter. That's where I post all my bets as soon as I make them. So thank you guys for tuning in, and have a great night.